Welcome to our new ABBA magazine show. A couple of games were very close in this fourth round. Is Cedevita still undefeated after the game with NZT Skopje? That was a challenge between last year's and this year's EuroLeague teams, Olimpia and Crvena Zvezda. We took a peek in the camp of the latter and, of course, at the end of the show, the best 5 actions of the round. News: as the injured Cedric Jackson still can't play as Olympia's playmaker, the Ljubljana team engaged Jako Vladovic till the end of the season. He played for Krka last year, playing 27 minutes on average and reaching 8.3 points and 4.3 assists per game, making him the 3rd best passer of last year's competition. 2,400 people turned up to see the game between Montenegrin and Croatian champion, and also the teams who had both lost their Eurocup games in the last second. It was the home team who took the first lead through William Coleman, who was Budućnost's 2nd best scorer in the end with 17 points. 33-year-old veteran Andrija Žižić was the first one to open the score for Cibona. He reached a double-double in the end with 16 points and 13 rebounds. When Aleksa Popovic ran to the basket, it was 13-7 for Budućnost, and the final score of the first period was 19-11, which was set by Jalil Akindele, 4 points and 7 rebounds for him in the end. When Alexander Chapin scored from the free throw line, it was the first slightly bigger lead of the game for the home team. But then it was Cibona's turn to play well. Matt Janning secured the first lead for the visitors, and when Daryl Strawberry hit a 3, it was 37-29. That was already Cibona's 4th three-pointer, which was more than its average in the first 3 games of the season. Strawberry had 9 points in the end, all scored in the first half with field goal efficiency of just 3 out of 11. Then an 8-0 partial for Budućnost, with Šehović scoring the last points of the half, which ended with 37 points apiece. At the start of the second half, Budućnost had picked up where it left off. A partial of 16-2 took them to 45-39 lead, but then Darko Planinic finally came to life, bringing his team to just a point behind. The score was 50-49 when Cibona's best player of the day, Dario Šarić, got his 4th personal foul. He was forced to the bench and Cibona's game worsened. Suat Šehović hit a 3 to make it 61-53. He was the home team's best scorer of the night, and the 3rd period ended with 61-55. The last quarter was opened by Marko Popovic's 2 consecutive three-pointers, after which Cibona replied with 7 points in a row to make it 67-62. Then Alexander Chapin scored his first 3 of the night, 9 points and 13 assists for him in the end. But then Dario Šarić again closed the gap to 5. He ended the night with 21 points and 7 rebounds. But all hopes for the visitors were extinguished when Coleman scored 45 seconds before the end to put his team 10 points ahead. 2nd win of the season for Budućnost and a 2nd defeat for Cibona, who in the end simply didn't have enough scorers in its ranks, just 7, 2 of which with only 2 points. 1,200 people turned up in Zagreb to see still the only undefeated team of the league, Cedevita, hosting NZT Skopje, who had registered 2 wins and 1 defeat prior to this match. Miro Bilan opened the score with a quick reply from the MVP of the previous round, Todor Gečovski, who had indeed a much worse showing this time around, only reaching 5 points in the end. Then the American playmaker Nolan Smith hit a 3. Tomislav Zubčić also played well. He played without his facial mask after a long time. The end result of the quarter was 19-14, and it was set by Georgi Chekovsky, best scorer on the night with 23 points. It was the best ABA League game of his career for Yusuf Nurkic, here dunking to make it 23-15. He collected 16 points and 8 rebounds in the end. Meanwhile, the visitors lost Kate Davis to an ankle injury, but MZT still managed to close the gap to just a point. But that was quickly replied by Marko Thomas, and the half ended with 40-33. Veteran Marino Baždarić proved he can still shoot from far. But Georgi Chekovsky was also successful from far. He hit 2 from 4 attempts for 3. And then 2 strange baskets by Yusuf Nurkic, who made sure the highest lead of the game was equaled after 30 minutes of play. When Ivan Ramljak stole the ball and scored, it was 63-53. And that was followed by an 11-2 partial for Cedevita, when Luka Babic scored 2 of his 13 points of the night, which set up a new highest lead of the match just 4 minutes before the end, and the game was all but decided. Alexander Kostovski scored 3 seconds before the end to make it 74-67, but that wasn't the end result. That was set by another strange basket by Yusuf Nurkic. He was really on fire that night. 4th win in a row for Cedevita and a 2nd defeat for MZT, who in the end had 20 turnovers. Olympia is still the only team without a win in ABA League, but on the other hand, it was the only team from the competition who managed to win in the Euro Cup. It hosted one of the league's favorites, Crvena Zvezda, who came to Ljubljana with 2 consecutive wins in the league. It was the first time Jaka Blažić returned to his former place. Luka Mitrovic was the first one to score for the visitors, and for the home team it was Nebojša Joksimović. And Blažić scored 4 points in a row to make it 9-5, and after that it was time for Jako Vladovic to register his first minutes with his new club. Davidas Gailius then scored his 2nd 3-pointer, followed by Omic's basket for the first Olympia's lead. Cody Augustus rounded up Olympia's 7-0 partial to make it 12-9 at the end of the first quarter. By the start of the 2nd quarter, Gailius had already scored 10 points to put the home team 5 points in front. But then Blake Shields scored 5 in a row to make it 16 apiece. Gailius was very hot on the night, scoring 15 already early in the first half, which ended 33-28 for Olympia. The second half started with Jaka Blažić hitting a 3 to put the visitors just 2 points behind. Local crowd was then aroused when Alex Stevenson firstly blocked the shot of the tallest player of the league, Boban Marjanovic, and then wrapped up the subsequent counter-attack to make it 40-36. After Joksimovic's 3, it was 47-41, and then Alen Omic slam dunked for the home team's highest lead thus far, +8. The end result after 30 minutes of play, 49-45, was set by Boban Marjanovic. Zvezda opened the last period well by scoring the first 4 points, and from then on till the end the match was extremely close. Joksimovic hit another 3 to put the hosts 3 points in front, but that was quickly replied by firstly Charles Jenkins and then Blake Shields. One minute till the end, Joksimovic was successful from the free throw line, which had put Olympia a point in front, but was then quite misfortunate to miss the next layup, which meant Crvena Zvezda was still only 1 point behind with 20-odd seconds to go. Joksimovic's mistake was readily punished by Charles Jenkins just 5 seconds from the end. Olympia still had time to make one final attempt, but Cody Augustus was unable to score from far. Narrowest of wins for Crvena Zvezda in the end. Unfortunate, Olympia, amazingly enough, still the only team without a win. Crvena Zvezda had staged an ultimate comeback to the region's elite by finishing in a runner-up spot last season. That achievement also announced its return to the EuroLeague after 15 long years. Because of that, they were able to round up a very good-looking roster for this season. We have worked hard and were able to already upgrade the team at the end of the last season. It wasn't an easy thing to do, as we were keen to hold on to as many players from last season, while at the same time trying to find adequate replacements for those who had left. In my opinion, we have done a very good job.
Mislim da smo to uradili dobro I da su novi igrači pokazali zašto su tu.
This year we haven't only reinforced ourselves with good players, but also with strong characters. There is a great atmosphere in the dressing room. We can still grow by working hard, and that could bring us great results. The red and white team from Belgrade was able to secure an ex-NBA player, Charles Jenkins, and another American with experience in European basketball, Blake Shield, and also Jaka Blažić, who could turn out to be one of the Zvezda's most important reinforcements. I don't know, maybe on paper we do have the strongest team in the league, but every game is its own chapter. Only at the end of the season we can really see which team is the strongest. Things change during the season, but if you train well, you should be rewarded in the end. Like I've said, we're going game by game, and I don't wish to foresee anything. Our only focus is to train as well as possible, because we're not paying attention to our role as favorites, but to playing hard. And also, our goals are clear, and with Crvena Zvezda, these goals are always the highest. Leading it all is the Montenegrin expert Dejan Radonić, who could not and will not run from the responsibility of being the main favorite. That is also the expectation of their fans.
Mi smo jedan od klubova koji ove godine pretenduje na to mjesto I naravno da ne...
We're definitely one of the teams fighting for the title. We know that based on what we see in training and our work. It's not going to be easy, the competition is hard, and everyone has its strengths and weaknesses. We'll just see how it pans out in the end. There's no denying that there's a lot of pressure on Zvezda's players and technical staff. It's a specific environment where fans don't really tolerate defeats or force relationships for that matter with the club.
Svako očekuje od vas u svakom trenutku da budete posvećeni 100%, znači nemate ni privatno vreme, očekivanje.
At any given time, everyone is expecting complete dedication from us. We don't have spare time because expectations are so high, but we all wish to give our best at all times. It's an incredible pressure, and only players who can deal with that can play for the club. In time, you learn to live with it.
To je u principu normalna pojava, tako da vremenom se saživite s tim I naučite da nosite.
Tudi ljudje so bolj nekako z dušo pri klubu in res navijajo v dobrem in tudi slabem.
Our fans will passionately support us in good and bad, but as I hear, there will be huge pressure when things aren't going well. It's a way of life here, and you just have to adapt to it. I was aware of that when I signed a contract, and so far everything is as it should be. Coach Radonić, who previously coached Budućnost, is also well aware of the pressure.
Ja sam svjestan da dolazak u Crvenu Zvezdu je korak.
Coming here is a step forward in my career. After all, we are playing in the EuroLeague and are one of the best teams in the ABA League. That excites me, so I'm pleased to have been given the opportunity. I've been waiting for this a long time to be able to deal with that kind of pressure.
Pritisak koji ću da nosim I koji imam je nešto što sam čekao da se desi.
We'll of course see what will happen during the season, but one thing is certain: Crvena Zvezda is definitely back among the best in the region, and it has legitimate case when going for the highest places. Široki was the second team this year to visit Hungary. It had gathered 2 wins in previous 3 encounters as opposed to Szolnok's 1. The visitors fired first through 2 consecutive 3-pointers from Jonathan Jones. Szolnok did manage to open its scoring in the meantime, but Široki had raced away with a 9-2 lead when Petrovic scores his first 3. So a wake-up call came early for the home team, but they did react well, securing a 12-2 partial and taking the first quarter by 14-11. Excellent 9 points from Peter Laurent in that period. But then 9-2 to Široki in the next minutes as they took the lead by 20-16, courtesy of Franco Kastropil. When Josip Bilinovac scored, the visitors were still in front by 2, but then it was time for Vojvoda to step up. He scored 9 out of 11 consecutive Szolnok's points, which had put it 7 points in front when it was 31-23. That turned out to be the end result of the first half, as neither of the teams managed to score in the 2 remaining minutes. Julius Coles opened the second half to cut the deficit to 4, but that was followed by Szolnok's 8-2 partial, which had set a new highest lead of the game, plus 10 after this basket from Chris Oliver. The bar was raised even higher to 12 after Rakic's 3-pointer. But then 9 consecutive points was secured by Široki, 7 of which came from Boris Barac. The guests managed to close the gap within a point, but a 7-2 partial by the home team secured. They were still in front by 5 after 30 minutes of play. Szolnok then opened the last quarter well by scoring the first 4 points, but the guests were still trailing closely, Tomislav Petrovic closing the gap to 5. But the home team was again in front by 10 when Tomislav Ivose rounded up his little run of 5 points, but again Široki was able to respond, scoring the next 7 points and coming closer within 3 points when Toni Katic was successful. The game's closure was a festival of fouls and free throws. 11 seconds from the end, Široki had a 2-point deficit and a ball possession, but Katic had lost the ball, which was readily punished by Vojvoda, and that was it. A second win of the season for Szolnok was not threatened by Buva's last basket of the game. In the Laktaši Hall there was a reunion of 2 defeated teams from last year's Final Four, with Igokea winning once and Radnički twice this season. It was the guests who opened the scoring through Marko Marinovic, which spawned a run of 10-0 for Radnički, rounded up by Muftau Jaru from the free throw line. And then the first points for Igokea from Branko Jorovic. That was quickly replied by Marinovic's first 3-pointer as the guests established a new highest lead, which was reduced slightly when Boris Bakic scored Igokea's first 3 of the night. Second came from Siniša Stenberger and the result was 18-10. But then Muta Nikolić's boys scored twice in a row for 3 to race away with 25-12. After this nice slam dunk from Milan Toze, the result was 28-20 after the first 10 minutes of play. And Marinovic had scored to make it 38-27. The visitors scored the next 5 and the gap was close to 6 after a new 3-pointer for Stenberger. Igokea was trailing by only 5 when Nemanja Gordic scored 3 in one go. But then the next 2 successful 3-point shots came from Radnički, DJ Sealy setting up a lead of 46-38. But Igokea's players were tenacious, the next 5 points coming from Siniša Stenberger, which had put the home team just 2 points behind. But the quarter was wrapped up by DJ Steely's third 3-pointer from 3 attempts. 49-44 to Radnički after the first half. Again, a slow start for the home team at the beginning of the second half, as it took almost 4 minutes for them to score, courtesy of Uroš Nikolić, but fortunately for them, the visitors weren't really up to it either. So when Nemanja Gordic scored They were only trailing Radnički by a single point. Does it again with a nice slam dunk, and everything was open before the last 10 minutes of the game, as the guests only led by 3 after the third quarter. Bordic was the first one to score in the last period, but that was followed by a 6-0 run by Radnički, rounded up by Nikola Kalinic. Then 2 consecutive 3-pointers by Steinberger, which closed the gap to just 4 points. Palkovic's 3, 4 minutes till the end, meant that Igor Kea was only trailing by 2 points. And then it had finally caught Radnički when Steinberger fired his 6th 3-pointer of the night, 2 minutes and 41 seconds remaining on the clock. It was Branko Jolovic who had then, less than 2 minutes before the end, secured Igor Kea's first lead of the game from the free throw line. From there, Steinberger was successful just 23 seconds before the end to make it 87-83, and after that the visitors had a chance for an offensive rebound after they had missed a second free throw, but Kalinic was able to score. In their last attempt to win the game, Stefan Jovic missed for 3, and Igor Kea was able to reach its second win of the season. The defending champion was hosting Zadar in front of a crowd of 5,500. The visitors opened the proceedings with a 3 from Marko Car, and from Partizan it was its captain Dragan Milosavljevic, 13 points for him in the end. It was 18-18 just before the end of the first quarter, but then came 2 very nice actions from the home team. First, Bogdanovic and Lovern combined for a nice alley-oop. And then, when Zadar could have held the ball till the end of the period, Ivan Batur lost the ball and then another alley-oop from Partizan. This time, Bogdanovic engaged Milosavljevic, who set up the end result of the first 10 minutes. It was 22-18. And from then on, it was only one-way traffic, more or less. Bogdanovic was instrumental in that period, scoring 9 out of his 11 points. When Geoffrey Lovern scored for 3, the home team had raced away with an 11-point lead, and by the time Terence Kinsey had scored, the lead had grown to 16 points. The end result of the first 20 minutes of play was set by George Gagic. Partizan had scored almost 50 points in the first half, while the visitors only managed 32. There was no significant change in the second half, which Partizan opened with a 10-2 partial, and when Milosavljevic scored, the home team was already in front by 25 points. But then they did ease off a bit, and Zadar was able to cut the deficit through Car, who scored twice for 3, and after 30 minutes of play it was 63-46. At the start of the last period, Zadar managed to come within 15 points when Ive Ivanov scored twice in a row, but that was quickly replied by Partizan's 9-2 partial, and a lead of 22 points was enough for the home team to again ease off, which Zadar took advantage of, and in the end the home team won by 15, 80-65 for Partizan, third win of the season for them and a third defeat for the Dalmatians. So Budućnost was able to crack Cibona in the end. No problems for Cedevita with MZT. Mega Vizura proved to be slightly more composed than Krka, as was Crvena Zvezda in the game against Olimpija. Tight result also in Hungary, and in Aleksandrovac the biggest win of the round went to Partizan. Cedevita remains to be the only undefeated team of the season, followed by both Belgrade clubs with 3 wins apiece. A good weekend for Mega Vizura, who managed to win for the first time in the season, which means Union Olimpija remains the only team in the league still without a win. The most valuable player of the round is the Croatian sniper Siniša Steinberger, who had reached the playing index of 35. The 34-year-old scored 28 points in 30 minutes of play in the win against Radnički, shooting 10 for 7 for 2, made 6 out of 8 attempts for 3, 8 out of 8 from the free throw line, and on top of that gathered 4 assists. Tao Yaru still leads the MVP chart of the season. So now let's take a look at the best 5 actions of the round. We start at number 5. And it's this Ramljak's slam dunk with a foul. Milan Dozic was dunking in this game. This one is one of them. Number 4. At number 3 we have put this action between Bogdanovic and Lovern, who finish up this alley-oop. We also have a slam dunk at number 2. This is Jaka Blažić dunking to his former team. And at number 1 we have another alley-oop. Again, Bogdanovic was the passer and Dragan Milosavljevic was the one who dunked it. That is our best action of the week. There will be the big Zagreb derby on Saturday between Cedevita and Cibona, and for the first time this season there will be a game on Monday. Crvena Zvezda shouldn't have too many problems with Solnok. That's all for this week. See you next time. Bye-bye.